Hey, welcome to the show. We're your hosts, Grant Cohn and Vish Kumaran. You may know Vish Kumaran. We used to stream all the time. It's been almost maybe exactly a
Exactly a
year.
year.
I think it's
Yeah.
been exactly a year since we
Yeah.
last streamed. Since we've last streamed, a whole lot has changed in
I
the
know.
world, in Ninerland. I mean, you graduated college, you have a job, I have
know.
a house. Jimmy Garoppolo is no longer on the 49ers. Trey Lance is no longer the starter. Brock Purdy is a factor. Sam Darnold is here. You got a microphone and Sirius AirPods. Damn.
Right? I got a light. You can see my face. Do you remember when we used to stream and the sun's glare used to come through? I think one time we were streaming with Eric Davis. Like, he just said he wanted to come into the show. It was me, you, and Eric Davis. And Eric Davis is over there talking about Jerry Rice in the 1980s, and the sun is just peeking right through the curtains. And
in the same room that you grew up in your parents' house, and now it's all over with. So, I guess, look, you weren't at practice today, but I've broken down practice. I can answer any people's questions that they have, but you did watch the interviews, and I thought the interviews were extremely interesting, and I haven't really talked about them. So I think we should discuss. Let's go one by one. Kyle Shanahan spoke first, and since me and you last talked, his plan at quarterback has changed a little bit. Last year it's Trey Lance. It's the end of story. Now it's Brock Purdy, or it's a three-way competition. How do you read Kyle Shanahan entering year 7 of his tenure, his plan at quarterback?
So I think we've talked about the quarterback ad nauseum, right? Like, you and I take a year's hiatus, and still it's almost the same discussion.
It's the same topics.
It's the same topics. You just are exchanging the characters of who's involved. Now we're removing the Jimmy Garoppolo character, and now, throwing Sam Darnold into the picture.
Right.
But I think the one thing that's been consistent with the 49ers is that they've always attempted to try and find a quarterback. And I think that that's the one thing they haven't gotten enough credit for in what they've done, because they've fumbled the bag with this quarterback situation pretty much at every turn. The one thing they've always been good about is identifying, hey, we don't have the best possible option, so let's do what we can to try and find the best possible option. Now, you don't get credit for trying, but in this case, I'm crediting them for trying. Now,
they've overturned a lot of stones. Give them credit.
Exactly. They've never ruled out any possibilities, as one might say. But I think the biggest thing I learned today, watching all three quarterbacks talk to the media, seeing how all three of their demeanors are, and seeing how jolly Kyle Shanahan was, one, he's relishing this entire idea of a quarterback competition, and two, I think he's supremely confident in his team being successful, regardless of which one of the three guys is his quarterback.
That's the key, right? Deep down, he feels it doesn't matter. That's got to be his thinking.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
And you can see that, right? You can see that in his demeanor with the way he answers questions about all of them. He has a level of confidence that all of them could be it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and what's interesting is, like, the dance he has to play is you got to pick one, and you got to get the team to back that one.
Right.
That's the tough one. And I feel like that's where this offseason quarterback competition comes into play.
Yeah. And I think when it's a great segue right there, when you bring up the quarterback competition. So I'm a skeptic of the concept of having a quarterback competition.
Right.
I've never seen the quarterback competition work besides when in Seattle, when they open it up in training camp, and then you get one guy playing week 1, and usually the other guy plays by week 5, and by week 10, the team is moving on to a third-string quarterback because neither of those guys are the guy. That's what usually happens. I think the key to the Niners quarterback competition is to have somebody be anointed as the guy before week 1 and be behind him. So whether that's Brock Purdy returning healthy, I think if he returns healthy, they will anoint him and be fully behind him. Yep. But if he doesn't return healthy, I think whoever wins the competition between Trey Lance and Sam Darnold, you shouldn't have a short leash on them if they have a poor week 1 or a poor week 2. And I think they learned a little bit of something from bringing Garoppolo back last year. The palpable tension, as Tim Kawakami called it, in the lock after what happened in week one, I think that they don't want to create that situation for whomever is playing quarterback. I think they want the team to solely be following him. And if there's one thing we can credit Jimmy Garoppolo for, he wasn't the greatest quarterback, but the team always had 100% belief in him. John Lynch would say they were convicted in him.
Convicted. Right. And so he's gone. And so now, I mean, they know they can win with Brock, but he might not play week one. They don't know they can win with Trey. They don't know that they can win with Darnold. So it seems like I got to give Kyle credit. I always nitpick him. It's fun to do. But I think he's in this conundrum. Like, I don't care which quarterback it is, but my players do. And they have opinions. And if I just pick one, some are going to disagree with me. Right. So why don't I make this a competition and roll the balls out and make it as fair as possible and let one of them win? I don't freaking care, man. If it's Sam Darnold, fine. Fine. As long as everyone sees it happen, as long as it doesn't feel forced, because I think that's one of the things that happened last year. It felt a little forced. You know, we didn't talk it through because we weren't streaming during the offseason, but like the fact that Kyle had to bring in the leaders of the team and say, hey guys, can you support Trey? Like he's not doing that with any of the quarterbacks this year.
Leaked to Jay Glazer 2 weeks later.
Probably not from Kyle.
No.
Probably from one of the players. Right. So I think he may have learned that like from last year, like, hey man, that didn't work. And I don't want to be going back and forth between quarterbacks this year. Let's let one of these guys, let's let the team pick a quarterback. Essentially, you guys pick it.
Here's my question, though. Here's my question. I think this works if there's a guy that's definitively the guy. But I think what you and I also agreed
What if there's a hung jury?
Is that when you really stack up the skill sets of these guys all together and what we project them doing next year, if I said the 49ers, Jesse Naylor always does this exercise, right?
Yeah.
If I said the 49ers are going to the NFC Championship game and I told you the quarterback was Sam Darnold, would you be surprised? If I said it was Trey Lance, would you be surprised? If I said it was Brock Purdy, would you be surprised? Exactly.
Not in the least.
And so when the margins are this close, perhaps, in our opinion, between these quarterbacks, like, what if it's not definitive who the winner is? What if half the locker room believes one guy's the winner? What if half the locker room believes the other guy's the winner?
And it backfires. And the whole thing backfires, right? Because you haven't gotten consensus, and whoever ends up starting hasn't gotten enough reps. So that's how it backfires right there. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I mean, that's to me why Trey Lance got all the first-team reps today. It wasn't like an even split. The idea is, Trey, you're going to win this job. That's the way I look at it. Trey, you're going to win this job unless Brock comes back. Sam Darnold starting week one is like the worst case scenario, but they'll do it if they have to. And I got to give Kyle credit for that. Like, hey, it's Trey. If it's your finger, your knee, your ankle, whatever, we're gonna go with Sam. But I think it's a runway. It's a clear highway for Trey to get this job.
There's no benefit. What happens if Sam Darnold starts and plays well the entire season? You have to pay him money. You have to make a decision on what you're going to do with all of it, right?
That's true.
You have Trey Lance. If he starts and plays great the entire year, he was your third overall pick. You were already committed to this. Great. If it's Brock Purdy, you were already committed to that. And I think that's where I have been saying that this entire offseason, the best possible scenario for the 49ers is that Trey Lance takes the leap. He's the number one guy. It's clear to everybody. And he just takes the job from week one and just it's his job and everybody knows.
Or Brock comes back for the beginning of training camp, tears it up. You never knew he got hurt and whatever. Like one of those two. One of those two.
I was just about to say that. I think that needs to be thrown in that 100 in that conversation
for sure.
100% as well. Because if he comes back and tears it up, what he did for 8 games, everybody's already like, okay, he's the guy. And then it just makes it a perfect segue. There's no quarterback controversy. There's no conversation from, everybody week 4 who should be starting. Week 3, should they bench the quarterback? Week 5, because I don't think it's going to be smooth sailing at the beginning of the year for any of these guys, because it's never is for the 49ers offense.
And you know what Kyle doesn't want? He doesn't want to be starting a guy week 1, benching him week 3, having whispers going to Mike Silver about, I don't know about this guy. That's a season that's going to be a disaster.
You can say we're a better team.
Yeah, all that stuff. Right. Like you can't have that. So whoever's starting week 1, we've seen Kyle, like he benched Brian Hoyer in 2017. Other than that, he doesn't necessarily bench quarterbacks. He'll ride with them, even if they have a losing record midway through the season. Like it's kind of cool. So whoever he picks week 1, if it's Brock, it's going to be Brock. If Brock's not ready week 1 and he goes with Trey, then it's Trey's job until he gets hurt or he's just freaking awful.
Right.
That's the way I read it. Like there is a little bit of urgency on Brock's part. Like, if you want to play this year, it's week 1.
Right.
Not week 4. If you want to play, it's week 1. Otherwise, it's out of my hands. It's out of your hands. We'll see what happens.
It turns into, whatever's happening at the moment. And even for Brock Purdy's return, because Kyle Shanahan, I thought the most important thing he said today was that Brock Purdy's projected return is at a certain point, but his actual return has to be whatever time before that, right? So if we project his return week 1, then we're assuming he's at least getting a month of that last part of the offseason, which is something. It's not everything, it's something. If the projected return turns into week 4, week 5, week 6, do you think they're going to have time to integrate him and get his rhythm, timing, and everything back? Because they'll be preparing for the season. The majority of his reps to get his groove back will be coming on scout team, right? In that scenario. So it's like, how do you integrate him completely back in the fold? Because as well as he played at the end of last season, he went through the entire OTA, rookie minicamp, training camp, all of that process healthy and getting every rep that they gave him. Now, he didn't get that many reps, but he still got every rep that they gave him. And he was able to work on his game that way.
Also, last thing I want to say about this before we move on. I do think Kyle is open to any of the quarterbacks coming back. But I do think he has a preference, and I think it's Brock. I could be wrong. I mean, Brock, in the sense that he's the least unknown. Like, they tore it up with Brock. They won playoff games with Brock. I think you could hear when was this your impression? It was my impression when he was talking today. He's kind of saying like, we think Brock's going to be there. Like, Brock's going to be there week 1. Like, that's the expectation. Like, I don't know if he's putting pressure on Brock or he's trying to speak it into existence, but I think he's not trying to go to plans B and C right now. I think in his mind, Brock's going to be there.
You know what I thought was interesting? He compared Brock and Sam Darnold and the way they play and their playmaking and the way they make plays off schedule. And you saw how he provided the difference between a dual threat and between the two mobile quarterbacks, and he compared the two, and he's called the other one a dual threat. And you know what's even
That's why I said when they signed Darnold, I'm like, oh, well, this is Purdy's backup. If they wanted Lance's backup, they would have signed Mariota like the Eagles did. From Hurts.
Exactly. And it's funny because I was listening to Chris Sims's top 40 quarterback rankings yesterday, which came out and had Sam Darnold at 27 and Brock Purdy at 26, and Trey Lance wasn't featured on the list. And
he could be higher. He could be higher. He could be higher.
No, he said he's not on the list already.
Oh.
But when he was talking about Brock Purdy at the time, you know what he said?
What?
He said Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold are basically the same guy, except Sam Darnold's bigger. Sam Darnold's got a little stronger arm. He's a little more athletic. And he did say, to Brock Purdy's credit, he's a much better decision maker, and he seems to keep
much more confident. It's so apparent. Sam Darnold, we're going to talk about him in a minute, but he does not project confidence, in my opinion.
I just thought that comparison back-to-back from the best friends, that was funny.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I can see it. 49ers Daddy says, Grant and Vish back, Niners Super Bowl confirmed. But do they win it? It's true.
Actually,
we'll see.
Grant and I had a 6-10 season, then an NFC championship game season, and then an NFC championship game when we didn't stream. So who knows? I don't know.
The coach has burned the boats. Yeah, they gotta pick one quarterback and stick with him. Tony, thank you. Barry Baller, it's double goat. Hit him with the double goat. What's up, Daria Baller?
That's a goat himself.
Angel Tapia says, just made my day. Glad to see you back together. You just made my day too, Angel. Thank you very much. Let's move on. Trey Lance, year 3. Last time you saw Trey Lance, he was in aw shucks mode. You know, I'm just trying to do the best I can, and Jimmy's great, and 5 quarters later, he broke his ankle. And now, he didn't do anything wrong, but he's essentially not the starter of this team anymore. Brock just lapped him, and he's got a whole different mindset. There's no expectations. What did you think of the way he reintroduced himself to the fan base and the media today?
He handled himself with absolute class and professionalism, as he always
He's very good with the media.
Yeah.
He's very good with the media.
So one thing I found particularly interesting was him just talking about the pressure, having to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
I think one talking point that you, me, no other content creator has considered, because Trey Lance has always come across as so mature, composed, so affable, all of these things. We've never considered the fact that this was a guy from Marshall, Minnesota, who played college football at Fargo, North Dakota, the step from going from there to one of the most storied franchises in the NFL with Shanahan, all these expectations.
In a controversial, like it was controversial, and a lot of the players in the team were like, "What is going on?" Jimmy didn't get replaced. I mean, it was awkward. It was like being the girlfriend while the wife was still in the house. All of that stuff. Really awkward.
I just feel like we never projected the difficulty of how hard it must be for somebody at 20, 21, 22 years old to make that transition. And I thought he was very real about that transition today in saying that it seemed to affect with him, the pressure, all of that. And I guess he's enjoying playing football again. That was the one comment from his presser that had me a little bit like, what really happened? Like,
that was wild when he said that. Before? I believe it though. I mean, it's not like he got drafted into an impossible situation. Everyone said it was the best situation. Like, hey, it's a great team. Go be good right away. It's like, yo, the bar is win the Super Bowl at 21 years old. Like, no one's done that before. And if I don't do it, everyone's going to say I'm trash. Like, that's wild. So he had like maybe more pressure on any quarterback ever that got drafted, like immediate pressure because the team's ready to go. And he got written off quicker than any top 3 pick ever as well. He also said that someone asked, like, how do you deal with all this? And he's like, well, very close to my parents and my brother and my friends. And I also, there's some people I talked to.
Sam Darnold said the same thing too.
Yes. But he also said there's some people I talked to help get my mind right. And I was like, whoa, are you talking to sports psychologists? And he was like, kind of, yeah. And I was like, did the organization set you up with them or not? And he was like, well, someone on the team recommended something. Because, like, dude, you don't want the organization knowing private stuff like that. Right. Like, you go to a therapist and be like, man, Kyle's killing me, man. Like, I got to talk. I got to get this off my chest. So that was very interesting. My wife is a therapist, and we talk about this a lot. She always like, man, there's unreal amount of pressure on these athletes. They also be talking to someone. Also, the trauma of getting injured the way he did, like, it's hard to come back from that. So there's a lot that he could talk about. That was very interesting.
100%. And I'm sure that recovery, the mental gymnastics of going through that, and then the expectation that his finger had to be right, but it wasn't right. I did think that, one thing that's been interesting, even when he talked today, is he's always been a little bit sensitive. There's only one topic he's sensitive to, and it's when he's asked questions about his throwing motion. He doesn't like those questions. He never says he doesn't like them. He always answers them respectfully, but he brushes them off in a particular way. And I thought it was interesting in today's presser, Matt Barrows, who recently just wrote an article featuring Jeff Christensen, the quarterback guru who has seemingly helped Trey Lance's mechanics grow quite a bit from where they were previously. He wrote an article saying that Jeff Christensen had to fix his mechanics substantially. It took him the 4 days, whatever. But the gist of it was that he had found the mechanical flaw that was causing the arm fatigue, and they had fixed it. And when Matt Barrows posed the question to Trey Lance today, instead of saying, well, I worked on my mechanics and tweaked something this offseason, Trey Lance spun the answer to say, hey, no. I actually left Fargo in my last game, and I've been throwing that entire time. I threw through the draft process. Then the 40 days, I wanted to work really, really hard, so I threw then too. I can't imagine any quarterback not having fatigue if I threw that much. And I thought seeing that answer and the way he said it and the way he kind of shifted the situation there was also interesting, because I think there's still some sensitivity for him, and the throwing mechanics and all the talk about it is a sore subject.
The way I look at it is like, it's almost like talking about like your sex life. It's like, it's none of your business. Right. That's personal. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go to the right people. I will work this out, but I don't need to confess to you. Like, I'll go to confession and I'll answer the questions, but that's personal, man. Like, if you're smart enough to look at my throwing motion and figure it out on your own, that's between you and God. But if you want me to break it down for you on the record, like, no, because that's honestly my weakest point right now. I don't need to bare my soul to you publicly. I respect that. And also it was very clever for him to twist it as like, I just was too hard. I just tried
exactly. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. He's very mature, composed. Like, you can easily forget he's 23 years old. Same with Brock. Both of them come across as like little 33-year-olds at times.
He's not getting out. Yeah. He's not. I think the key distinction is that I think Purdy just says what needs to be said. I think Lance shows that he's not going to be outsmarted by any of these questions. He's going to answer them directly, but even when you ask him a question that's trying to stump him up, he knows what you're trying to do, and he's going to give you an answer that manipulates the question back to you.
Also, like, he's working on mechanics. Like, he's working with some of the best coaches. He's working on very little details.
Right.
He's answering questions from people that have no clue. So from is it his job to educate you and then answer the question? Like, from his perspective, like, man, why don't you do some research and then ask me a good question and then I might answer.
That's where the questions I thought were a little bit. I think they could have gotten a level deeper. And one of the questions I wanted to be asked to him, and maybe I should have tweeted this out or something, was, if you remember, the reason he started working in SoCal with 3DQB was after his second pro day, the 49ers requested that he went and work out there with John Beck. He had been doing his stuff with Quincy Avery. And then I think it was before his second pro day. And then he did his second pro day with John Beck and them instead of doing it with Quincy Avery. And at the time, I think Zach Wilson and Justin Fields were also working out with John Beck, but that was upon the 49ers request. I remember even Quincy Avery had mentioned, they requested that he went and work out there. Since then, it seemed like he had moved his quarterback, whatever, training camp there. And he worked there for a year. Now, Shanahan, when he was talking about it, he basically blamed it on the finger. He said last year he had to make progress in terms of his grip to be able to get himself confident enough to make progress this year. I wish somebody asked him the question, did the 49ers ask you to work out in SoCal with 3DQB, and why did you shift where you're working out with your personal QB coach? Because you and I can sit here and be like,
I asked him, what did you get out of it? But that was the question, like, why did you change? That was the question.
Because you and I can sit here and say, like, well, he needs to throw this way. This person throws like this, all this. But nobody really knows. He knows. His quarterback coach knows. They know how they're working on it, how they're trying to get him more comfortable throwing the ball. And I wonder what was there. Was this a personal decision that he made? Was this a Jimmy Garoppolo recommendation because he's worked out with Jeff Christensen? What drew Trey Lance to go?
Jimmy, that would be so funny if Kyle Shanahan and the whole coaching staff couldn't figure out the right coach, and Jimmy's like, Trey, go see Jeff Christensen.
I mean, they love
Kyle,
how Jimmy
let me fix this for you. Let me fix this for you on the way out to the Raiders, man. Like, that would be hilarious. But maybe
they love how Jimmy throws it, right?
They do. They do. Hey, that's a good question though. Like, how did it take you until year 3 to find the right coach for Trey? You know what I'm saying? Like, how did that happen? Don't know.
Or why? Why? Because usually we don't see quarterback coaches, right? Like, Sam Darnold's worked out with Jordan Palmer from before his draft process till now. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow work out with Jordan Palmer. You know, Patrick Mahomes works out with Jeff Christensen. Usually we don't see this shifting, right?
Also, I want to mention one thing. The pressure. Trey mentioned, like, he's enjoying football again. I think the pressure was dizzying. It was too much. And I'm not knocking him, but, like, I think it's what he's trying to say is, like, okay, like, I'm not being anointed the franchise quarterback. Good. All I want to do is keep my head down, be out of the spotlight, compete, and win the job organically. Like, that's better for me than having everyone say, like, oh, you're going to be the guy who wins the Super Bowl at 22 and takes Jimmy's job. Like, dude is balding. You can see the stress all over him. Like, honestly, why is he balding so much at 23? Like, this man is stressed. And I think the fact that he can just take a step back and be like, all right, no one believes in me. They got Brock. Brock's the guy. Like, I can just compete now. Like, that's a good place to be in when you're the best athlete in the room. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of a sudden, he's in a good spot. And it seems like mentally he's also in a good spot. This is good for him.
I think it's just more, if we look at who he is as a person and what his roots are, this is more organic for him, right? He's the guy who redshirted, who then had to earn the job and all of that. He had to do that type. That was his journey to get here. He was not Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, who were stars from 7th grade.
Correct.
Went to the big colleges, were the stars on campus, the big man on campus, all of that.
No, he was the dark horse. He was under the radar.
Right.
Yep. He's right back in that role.
Right. So
he's right back in that role. And the guy in front of him is 6 feet tall. Like, he must feel like, all right, cool. Like, this is all right, cool, Brock, love you, man. Cool, but I got this, which is how he needs to feel. Because, honestly, he does exude that confidence. Brock exudes that confidence. Darnold doesn't. Darnold's gone through some things in the league. And this is year 6 for him. We're going to talk about him in a little bit, but I don't know if you can undo that much. Alex Smith did. Trey Lance, to me, like, he doesn't have the stench of failure on him, which Darnold does. Trey's gotten injured. Trey's had some rough starts, but he's 23, and he still seems like he has confidence. It's crazy that he said he wasn't enjoying football, though, man. Like, Kyle, dude, what is up with your culture that you got these young quarterbacks flipping out, going bald at 23?
Maybe it's the injuries. Maybe it's
the injuries.
The benefit of the doubt there, yeah.
It's a lot of pressure in Santa Clara. All right. Scott says, how do you guys honestly feel Trey will do? I think Trey can outplay both Brock and Sam. Just may take half a season to develop. I kind of get the feeling like it's going to be like one day Trey's the best quarterback on the field, then one day Sam's the best quarterback on the field. Yeah. Like you said, is it really going to be definitive this offseason? I don't know.
And I think that's the question. I think Scott also brings up a good point with the second half of this question. And I think that's the confusing part with Trey Lance. Because we are projecting growth that how is he supposed to do it? He's supposed to grow this much after rehabbing the last 6 months, and then now he comes back to training camp, and he's supposed to all of a sudden be
in practice. He's going to improve,
right? He's supposed
when
to
he did in the last 2 years in practice,
right. And I think it's a possibility that he could definitely become the guy. Look at how talented he is, and like Grant has said, while he has not succeeded yet, he has not failed either. He is still the same enigma he was 2 years ago, but. If it takes half a season, the question is, are the Niners, if they feel that he gives them the best chance to win going into week 1, are they going to marry themselves to the journey that might come with over the next few weeks? Because last year we didn't get to see if that journey played out, Grant. But I genuinely do question when they brought Jimmy Garoppolo back. If the play had continued how it was in Chicago and the Niners had started, let's say, 3-4 like they did.
Correct.
Would he have been able to be then playing week 8, week 9?
Right, because when Jimmy starts 3-4, he still has a locker room behind him.
Right.
If Trey starts 3-4 and Jimmy's on the team, come on.
Some of those quotes were bad. Like I'm not going to say it, but you can say it. We're a better team now.
Really bad.
What is that?
Really bad. Whoever said that, shame on you. Niners daddy says, is Darnold on Kellen Mond confidence level? No, Kellen Mond was the least confident quarterback I've ever seen. I saw him in the joint practices. I wanted him to be good. And it killed me to watch him just shrink like a little shrinking violet. Sorry, Kellen. I believed in you. Bryson VFX says, so if Brock is healthy, he's the starter no matter how Trey does. How did the 3 look today with accuracy and time to throw? I think if Brock is healthy, it's his job. I think that's the way it is. And he earned it. So,
let me ask you a question. Who did you think was the more gifted thrower on the field, Darnold or Lance?
Lance. Okay. Lance. Now, like here's when you watch Darnold, I told you on the phone, when you watch Darnold and you don't watch where the ball goes, it looks nice. Quick release, tight spiral. Like everything looks great. He could throw from different arm slots, ball comes out quick, but it's always a little low. It's a little behind him. There's a guy adjusting with a one-hander. He had a wide open deep throw today, threw it late, underthrew it. It's like, yeah, that's what I've seen every single time I've seen you play. Like, I was trying to give him a blank slate, but when I'm watching, I'm like, yeah, man, it's Sam Darnold. Like, that's Sam Darnold. But it's one day. Like, maybe yesterday he lit it up, and Trey was inconsistent. Like, you got to remember, we only see a 33% snapshot of OTAs, and it's 7-on-7s. Last year, Trey tore it up too. Then they went to 11-on-11s in camp, and he was overwhelmed. So, we'll see.
And that's been a theme. I will say this. He started every offseason with the 49ers really hot. He started, the phrase of the day, at a torrid pace. He started his rookie minicamp, all of that at a torrid pace.
Jerry McDonald said that like 8 times today in the question.
What was that?
Love you, Jerry. Love you, Jerry. What happens is sometimes he was clearly writing about McCaffrey. Yeah. And so what he did was he asked the same question to every single person that went up there. And it was like, okay, do your thing. But he waited until like 8 minutes in. He let everyone get their questions in. I like Jerry. But you're right. Toward pace. Yeah.
But it's always, it's gone from positive to less positive. The hype has always diminished as the offseason has gone on for him for whatever reason, right? And so for Trey Lance.
Yeah.
And so I think we'll find out if it plateaus here, or if it increases, or if it decreases as well.
Yeah. David Baker says both your cameras are blurry. Really? They look good to me.
I'm sorry. I'm looking in 4K.
I can't tell. Raymond Martinez Jr. What's up, Raymond? Says, what's up, fellas? Classic episode. What must Shanahan see from the quarterbacks to name a starter? Is it as simple as Brock returning, or is there more nuance? It's a lot of nuance, right? Like when Brock returns. If he returns for the beginning of training camp, it's over. There's no competition.
Too, yeah.
But is that going to happen? Like, I don't think that's going to happen. So to me, yeah, like what happens if it's a Darnold Trey competition and it's not definitive, to your point? What do they do?
That's the $1 million question. And I think they're hoping to avoid that scenario. And that's why they're opening it up and giving both guys a complete runway and saying, like, we're letting you win this job. Now, I do think, Grant, if Brock comes back before week 1, I don't think anybody's passing him in practice.
No, you can't. He won playoff games. You can't. There's nothing because practice isn't even football. It's not. So there's nothing you can do in that setting that can trump beating the Cowboys in the playoffs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, but what can happen is if Brock doesn't start week 1 and you go on a winning streak, then, that's all ancient history. Salab Safi says, give predictions. Who will be the week 1 starter? Trey.
You're going Trey? I'm going to go
Purdy. I'm going to go Trey.
I'm gonna go Purdy. Fair. For whatever reason, what they said today, I've been so skeptical of him coming back. But the way it sounded today, it sounds like they're putting pressure on that situation to happen.
Sure. I just feel like it's risky because it's Pittsburgh. And look, Purdy did great stuff last year, but he beat up a lot of bad defenses. And then he faced Dallas, and it was like a 50% pressure rate. And to his credit, he survived and didn't get hurt or turn the ball over, and he won. But then he went up against an even better pass rush, and the Niners couldn't block at all, and he got smacked. Pittsburgh is a really good defense with a bunch of different fronts and a bunch of different. I mean, it's not just him; it's the O-line. He's going to get smacked if he plays and wins that game. He's either if he wins or lost, he's going to get smacked a few times. Do you want him taking those hits?
I think that, first of all, I think that game's a bad matchup for either any quarterback week 1. I've talked about this. They went into Cincinnati and sacked Joe Burrow 7 times last year. He had 5 turnovers. 2 years ago, they went into Buffalo and beat Josh Allen, and that was with Mitchell. That was with Tommy John, Ben Roethlisberger, and then the year after with Mitchell Trubisky. Yeah. Now, the one
they're going to bring so much pressure. They're not going to play back. I mean,
I have a galaxy brain theory on what I would do actually if I was the 49ers.
Tell me.
So you've built up equity, right? 3 out of 4 NFC Championship games.
Yeah.
I would just put Purdy on ice for the year because I think the timing of the injury is so bad. I would let Sam Darnold and Lance battle it out. If Sam Darnold and Lance completely flop, you can say next year, well, Brock Purdy just wasn't ready the entire time. We didn't have our franchise quarterback. And if one of them shows up and is the guy, then you're still in a situation.
Then it changes. Then that changes.
Comes back healthy. And so that's what I would do, just because I think the way they're asking Purdy to return is not enough.
It's desperate. I
don't think people are putting enough equity into offseason, like the amount quarterbacks work out, right? Like Tom Brady used to work out with Amendola and Edelman after playing for them and fought with
for like big deal
years in May. They used to be
rushing Purdy back off no offseason is the kind of thing a coach in the hot seat does. Like, you're not on the hot seat. You're good. Well, why would you do that?
On the hot seat.
Yeah, but like, again, this is a guy who's 23 years old. He's going to have an abbreviated offseason. Like, he's not just
Did you ask him the RG3 question? He's gone through this once before with a different injury. Similar.
I mean, if Brock Purdy were 30 years old and he'd won a Super Bowl already, he'd be like, yeah, well, I don't give a damn about his offseason. Like, he's Drew Brees. Go out and do it. But that's not who he is. He's freaking 23 with 8 career starts and a serious injury and no offseason. And he's like, oh, yeah, he's good to start week 1. Like,
well, they said that's what affected Jimmy last year, right? Like the Denver
game,
Jimmy was rough.
Absolutely. I don't know about that. David Baker says, all good. Nice to see you, Vish. You guys click. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Anthony Cook says, is if Brock is ready for the start of the season and goes 0-2-0-3, does Kyle move on to Lance? That's a doomsday scenario. Doomsday. You don't want to. You can't have that happen where you rush Brock back.
If he does that and you go back to Brock then after, or you're kind of having to go to Lance, otherwise the season's done if you go back to Brock.
It's like we had a quarterback competition. Both these guys worked their butts off. One guy won. We disregarded the results. We rushed Brock back. It didn't work out. Now we're going. It's like you can't do that. It looks like failed leadership. That looks like bad coaching. Straight up. Battle Beast 19 says 5 will ball. Get Lego Batman off the stand. Sam. Lego Batman? That is so funny. Masa Toure says, how many drops today for each quarterback? A bunch of drops, actually. I wasn't trying to use that excuse because people like people disagree on what a drop is, but Lance had a bunch of, there were a bunch. So let me go through it. Mitchell dropped one of Lance's. Ronnie Bell dropped one of Lance's. Lance throws it hard in the flat, though. Like, he really fires it in the flat. So sometimes these running backs just... Yeah, they were spirals. He had one wobbler, but it was caught. Yeah. Ty Davis Price had a questionable one. I didn't call it a drop. I don't want to call these guys drops unless it's a clear drop.
How did he look? How did his body look?
A little bit better. He was running harder. I'll give him that. He was running hard. He was a little tentative last year. Jordan Mason ran so hard. But Jordan Mason got a touch before Ty Davis. So, we'll see.
Whose body do you think looked better between the two?
Mason. Does Brock get a longer leash to find a rhythm at the start of the season as opposed to Trey if he starts slow? Look, again, Kyle hasn't benched a quarterback since Brian Hoyer in 2017. Like, he wants to choose a guy and stick with him. He was very patient with Jimmy Garoppolo. Very. He was.
Yeah, I don't buy.
But they're paying him.
I don't buy this so much because if so much of the fear with Trey Lance is that you can't go through growing pains, then why would Brock Purdy have the leash that he doesn't have?
Right.
I think the way the quarterback situation is set up is, again, barring definitives, I don't know if anybody will have a leash. Of course, Grant just brought up the point, well, it seems like that's not Shanahan's style. I don't know if we've ever seen Shanahan, though, in a situation where the two things, right? Because there's one thing here. Politics are involved in the NFL. Jimmy Garoppolo makes a hell of a lot of money. Not an easy guy to bench because of that.
That's true.
And then
that's true.
Two, I don't think he's ever had a situation where the guys make this much even money. And he's in complete control of who gets to play, who gets to start, all of that. Because in Washington,
it just seems wishy-washy to keep changing your mind. But he could always be like, look, if Brock starts 0-2, it could be like, I had a setback. He's hurt. We're not benching Brock. He's just injured. You could always do that.
Him. We don't want
you could always do that.
Yeah. You could do that.
Yeah.
But I think if Brock does not start well and you pull him and you go to somebody else and that somebody else is, not playing like a starting quarterback either, your entire season kind of gets tanked because now you're just quarterback to quarterback to quarterback. And this is the worst part of the quarterback competition because usually what it teaches you is not that, hey, this guy's the guy. It's that, hey, both of these guys are not the guy.
Right. Fire the Great says QB1 depends on how Purdy looks versus how much Trey improved. Purdy is the QB1, but like Kyle said, but he got hurt. That's true. It complicates things. Like, we don't really know what Purdy is anymore. We'll have to see. Lamonte 757 says, you think this is another pump and dump attempt just to trade Trey Lance by week 7? Also, did Trey have any wobble, and did he or Sam throw any close call throws? One at a time. It does feel like a little bit of a pump and dump attempt in the sense like, why not? Why not try? You never know. You might get an offer. Clearly, I don't think he's worth much right now, so they got to do something. Did Trey have any wobble? I saw one. And he also threw one that almost got picked by Curtis Robinson in the left flat. It was one of these like shot plays not there and like a reflexive check down to the left that he didn't really look at. So yeah, you got to work on that. Sam Darnold fumbled a snap. I'm not saying any of these guys look like a franchise quarterback today. Can I point that out? Neither of these guys look like franchise quarterbacks today in May.
Who showed more command in your opinion where it felt like that guy was in control and charge?
Trey. It's his third year on the team. He freaking better. The Niner you love to hate, 510 says, Vish, in my E40 voice. Welcome back. Vish. Muweed says, what are the odds Purdy arm has gotten weaker now? Probably a little. But, he hasn't even started the rehab process. I guess we'll have to see. Manny Fresh, I hope Purdy's a starter week 1 so Trey can come in once he's hurt and the team is hitting on all cylinders. That's kind of mean. But I know what you mean. Tough. But I think it's kind of a weird way to say it. Aru Illustri says, great to see you, Vish. We missed you. You guys can go on Vish's channel and tip Vish when you say we missed you. I'm just saying that. Keneal Mason says, Grant and Vish, the dynamic duo, welcome back. My theory, Niners pushed up Darnold stock through the media simply to help change the narrative on Trey. I like that narrative, that they push. They make Sam Darnold seem like he's a real, like back when Tyson used to fight nobodies, they make him seem like there's someone. It's like, oh my God, he knocked him out. It's like, nah, Tyson's been in jail for 3 years and they're trying to get his legs back underneath him. Like, oh my God, Trey beat Sam Darnold in a competition and Sam's good. Like, Not really.
I think it's just something people can't get past the fact that I think they clearly just genuinely like his talent. They've been connected to him so many times before this. I think there's an affinity for his talent.
No question. Scott Koenig says, thank you, Grant and Vish. You two are always on point. Thank you. David says, is training day, boys. Let's freaking go. Suck it, Flav.
What's with the Flav dislike?
Oh no, Flav. What Flav does is he's funny, he's snarky, and he comes on like almost every live stream to just take jabs at Trey.
Yeah,
and Trey fans take it personally. So
I found him so much more tame than the guys who take jabs consistently on Trey on Twitter, though.
True, he actually has a little bit of
he's a little bit more style. Tame. That's why I'm like, why does everybody just go?
I like Flav.
Yeah.
I like Flav. Battle Beast 19. We call him Flave sometimes, but he goes. He's versatile. Battle Beast 19 says Kyle doing the Birdman hands to start Trey over PP. I like taking pictures like that. Dustin the Gale says, "Welcome back, Showtime Vish." Showtime Vish. On hell, thank you. Edgardo, how did teammates act with Trey, CMC, Kittle, others? I was in the locker room. It's hard to say, but I do want to give.
Was at a torrid pace,
dude. McCaffrey. Well, I just want to say something, man. That's leadership. You want to be the leader of the team, you show up, you practice, you do stuff like that. Like, no disrespect to anyone who didn't, but he did it. Warner stood and watched. Ayuk stood and watched. Like, it's cool. Hey, by all means, but that is a guy who's going to push a team to win a Super Bowl because you don't turn it on in October if you're going to win a Super Bowl. It's now. It's fucking now. And I like that shit. I like that with McCaffrey.
Yeah, he's special.
And Kittle was out there too. Yeah.
He's special.
You could definitely tell that he hasn't been on a team like this, and he's not taking a minute for granted. I like that about McCaffrey.
Right.
All right, let's keep going.
It'll be interesting because we know Nick Bosa is going to show up in unbelievable shape and
yeah. Bosa's great, but he's not a leader. Like he's not going to be here to galvanize the team in May. It's not what he does. And
he's not going to be at a torrid pace in May.
No, it's not what Trent Williams does either, but freaking CMC. So stay healthy, baby. The coach says Brock is starting the season on PUP, and Trey is beating out Sam. Niners brass is trying to speak this into existence, but I ain't moved. Trey gets a real QB comp, and he gets his reps games perfect. That's what I'm guessing too. I think Brock's going to start on PUP, and I'm gonna explain why. We're going to talk about Brock next. We're trying to get there. Coach, love you, man. Anthony, bold prediction. Who finishes the season as a Niners? That's the real question. I don't know.
So for this, I'll go Trey Lance.
I don't know. Okay. For this, I'm going out of pure cynicism, Sam Darnold. Not because of anything Trey Lance is going to do wrong, because of Kyle M. Effin Shanahan, who just can't keep a quarterback healthy to save his life. Sorry. Whoever starts the season is not finishing the season. That's the brutal reality of this team. I wish I was wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Aniket says, given how GC is stressed that winning early is important, who would you start? Healthy, proven Purdy or improved Lance? Welcome back, Vish. Man, that's so contingent on so many things.
Yeah.
Let me answer that. Let me answer that in September when I see where they're at. But that's a good question. Game time.
If Purdy is healthy today, all we can say is that we would start Purdy, but we also haven't seen this version of Lance in a game on the field, so we don't know how that projects either.
Game time says, "Oh snit, the two amigos are back." Oh, this is for you. Titus Moeller says, heard what Purdy's practicing with instead of a ball. Is there a saboteur inside the Niners organization? How else can we explain them so perfectly setting up Grant for the clickbait pick? Tweet caption, is Brock throwing in the towel?
That's special. That's special.
Titus, thank you very much, man. It's $20.
That is top notch.
He hasn't been throwing the towel yet. I'd like to see him throw the towel. When is the next Cohn phone? Saturday.
They call it aggressive too, right? Shanahan always says he's making an aggressive movement with the towel.
So how aggressive could you get with a freaking towel? It's like
all I'm saying is by the end of training camp, I don't want to be in the locker room with Brock Purdy because if he's one of those towel snappers in the locker room,
that hurts
so bad.
Fire the Great says BT Dub Flav sounded like a real casual on Ryan's show today. Him and Ryan finally made their bet too. I like Flav. He adds a little flavor to the discourse. Cesar Alcazar says, is the book out on BP? He likes to roll left, doesn't like to throw right. Seems like he really won't be able to work on that because of the rehab process. It's a fair question. I don't know if the book's out on Brock. He's only played 8 games, but there's more of a book now than there was when there were no games on film. And we did see the Seahawks and the Cowboys use the same freaking game plan back-to-back games. So, yeah, I would say that there's a book is sort of being developed.
If you want to go to Brock Purdy now, I'm actually –
yeah, let's do it. Battle Beast, we'll get to you, but they're coming in pretty quick. Let's talk Brock Purdy. So last time we talked, me and you, Brock Purdy wasn't a factor. I didn't even know who Brock Purdy was. Now, I mean, he makes appearances and he gets standing ovations. He like kisses babies. He's over there. He's regal. He's the freaking Prince of Santa Clara. And even though his right arm doesn't work so good right now, he got the first crack at the podium today. He is the leader in the clubhouse. What do you think of the way he acted, his demeanor, and what he said? Because he said one thing that really stuck out to me.
So his demeanor to me is always fantastic, just like Trey Lance. And by the way, this can be said about Sam Darnold too. They're all so respectful, kind.
True.
They answer every question.
True.
They're very nice. They're very professional. They speak. They're well spoken. So they're all fantastic in that way. I think something that I really enjoyed from his presser is how honest he was about his own flaws. And I thought it was something that's very different from hearing Jimmy Garoppolo when there's direct questions asked about
even him. Trey won't talk about his mechanics.
Right. And I thought Brock Purdy, on the other hand, and this is why I guess perhaps I have a little bit more faith. I know there's always this long-term ceiling question with Brock Purdy, right? And the comparison's always Jimmy. Well, I think maybe Brock Purdy is just that person that's a little bit more – I don't want to say Jimmy isn't that guy, but maybe Brock Purdy is the guy that goes out of his way to work on his flaws and make sure that they're getting better. And I thought it was great that he talked about how early and how earlier in the season, and I was talking about this just yesterday with our mutual friend Rob Guerrera, and he and I actually had this entire sequence of talking where we talked about how Brock Purdy at the beginning of the year, the best I thought he played was the Miami game and the Tampa Bay game, where back foot hit the ground and ball would get out. And then he started making plays off schedule, and then you had plays like the Raiders game, right, where it's process over result. The Kittle play rolling out left is cool, but you got to make that throw to Jennings. And you see the first half against Dallas where he's running out of the pocket. He's running out of clean pockets. What are you doing? And then the second half against Dallas, it's not that he made any big-time throws. He just started playing quick, clean, efficient quarterback. And he talked about that entire process of how he went from doing what Shanahan and Greasy told him to feeling himself and thinking he could make some more plays off schedule. So now he's working on making sure that he's playing quickly and fast and on time and on schedule. And I thought that was great because to me, if we're talking about the archetype of Brock Purdy becoming a great quarterback, he has to become the master of playing on time and on schedule from the pocket.
Right. That's what Drew Brees was.
Great.
That's what Drew Brees was. Yeah.
Right. And his off
because, dude, you're not Russell Wilson, man. Here's the thing. You're not Russell Wilson. You got a nice 10-yard burst. You're quick. Russell Wilson in his prime ran a 4.5.
Right.
Okay. Russell Wilson had one of the strongest arms in the league, the best deep ball I've seen in a long time. I remember when Russell Wilson won the NFC Championship game against the Niners. Vic Fangio was in the locker room that day. He came down after the game, and we were asking him about, how come you couldn't contain Russell Wilson? He was like, guys, as a runner, he's like prime Barry Sanders. I'll never forget he said that. Now, maybe that was a bit of an exaggeration, but, dude, he was that good at 24 years old. Brock's not like that.
I mean, I know we think Brock Purdy's a pretty thick guy. He's not skinny, but
He's
Russell Wilson
like
was, 225?
Yeah. So you got to be Drew Brees, man. Drew Brees was the quickest decision maker, the best decision maker, and the most accurate passer. And even he only won one Super Bowl. So there is no margin here.
Way better. Drew Brees was a good athlete. Brock Purdy has definitely got higher foot quickness than Drew Brees. Like, he's a good athlete, and definitely, I think with Brock Purdy, like, this is where I kind of push back on the playmaking stuff because even though he's not the biggest guy and he's not the strongest guy, he has a natural knack to slide and move and make something happen off schedule. It's a natural thing that he does, and he's done it since he was at Iowa State.
And the longer the play goes, like, the more of a weapon he is.
Exactly.
Like, he's good. Yeah.
Exactly. But if you can use that where you only use it in spurts and rather than him being reliant on it, because I think if he is reliant on it, with his stature, his arm talent, I don't think it's sustainable for him to play that way. But if he can balance that out where he just
also the team is too good. The talent is too good. The coaching is too good. You don't need to do that. That's what you had to do at Iowa State. You don't need to do that here sometimes. But most of the time, you just need to execute.
Right.
Yeah.
And if he's able to do that and if he's able to take that step, then great. The Niners have their quarterback of the future, and he's that guy. But if he plays the same way, I think that process is a little bit scary of him running outside of the pocket so much. I don't think it's sustainable for him.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say about him that he said in this press conference, it was right after Shanahan. And Shanahan was he kept saying like the expectation is that Brock's going to play. I don't know if he said that exact words, but he made it sound real. Hello? Hold on. I'm here. Just a second. No, hold on. Wait, that's not the right one.
Oh, he switched the cameras.
I didn't mean to switch the camera. Hold on. That's weak. Settings.
This is a commercial for the camera company, by the way.
It's not exactly.
The 8K and the computer camera is crazy.
Woo! That was terrible. Okay. What was I talking about? Brock Purdy? Great quarterback.
You were talking about Brock Purdy.
Great.
What stood out to you from what he said in his presser?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Kyle kept saying like, the expectation, he's going to be back week 1. Like Lynch has said it. Kyle said it. Like we expect if everything goes right. He used a different word. He was like, well, that's the goal. That's the goal. It's a good goal to have. And I was thinking like the difference between a goal and an expectation. Like the goal is to win a football game. You can expect to win a game, but that doesn't mean you will. That's your goal. Like an expectation is like, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to give it my best effort. Like that's for sure an expectation. But there's a difference between an expectation and a goal. And I think Brock made that real clear. Like, God willing and everything goes right. Yeah, you're sure. But like no freaking idea. And neither do they. So we'll see. I thought it was kind of interesting.
100%. And I think that's the key, right? If everything works out with his timing of his return, he probably takes the job week 1 to week 17. And the reason, prediction is a prediction. I just kind of throw it out there right now because honestly, it doesn't matter who I think is going to start today, week 1, or who I think is going to start today, week 17. I just said a random name, whatever. But I do think the reason I also said that logically was just simply because I just don't understand how that timeline is going to work out. And I think the way the competition works out, the Niners are going to want him because I think he might be the only definitive answer at that point because he has the 8-0 equity. As much as I am bullish on Trey Lance's projection if he gets an opportunity to play, as much as I think Sam Darnold could do well with the 49ers in this situation with these weapons, all of that, I don't know if either of them in this particular offseason will be able to
check it.
No,
people not feeling your mic. Are you good?
Yeah, it seems okay to me. I'm not sure. I didn't change.
Maybe you just need to lean a little bit closer to it.
A little bit closer. How's that?
Yeah, that's better. I think you got to be a little bit closer to it. Sorry about that.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, there you go.
But either way, what I was mentioning was simply that I think that timing of when he returns and all of that, it just doesn't feel right. And we talked about how imperative it was that the 49ers have definitively a guy. And I just don't think in this time period they will have definitively a guy where he might be the only definitive a guy, and they might want to play him that way.
What I think is so interesting about Brock Purdy is that we don't really know him. We don't really know any of these quarterbacks, but we think of him as like this aw shucks, last pick in the draft, whatever you need, coach, I'll do whatever. But he's got a little standing now. He won some playoff games. He's 8-1. He gets standing ovations wherever he goes. Like he's a freaking local legend right now. And he's not just a guy. Like he's the leader in the clubhouse. He might be the future here. And I think he's not going to say it, but we're learning, like, does he have a little leverage here? If the Niners are pushing him to start week 1 and him and his team feel that's not the right thing for him, like, is he going to push back privately? Like, I don't know. Brock Purdy
is palpable, right?
And like his dad was a professional athlete. Like he's not like a rube. He's got people in his corner. He knows what he's doing. It's very interesting.
His confidence is special, dude.
It's
special. He never lost his poise once last year. And even today, for a guy going through the injury, having to deal with questions, at the end of the day, that is the 3rd overall pick that's nipping at his heels and trying to come back and retake the job that was originally his, not Brock Purdy's. Then you have Sam Darnold, a veteran with all this talent in the world, and Brock Purdy didn't seem fazed by any of that. He seemed to basically be like, I'm going to get myself healthy, and if I'm healthy, things will work itself out. So I love the confidence that was portrayed by both of the 49ers quarterbacks that were remaining on the roster from last year to this year. in both Brock Purdy and Trey Lance. But I think Purdy's confidence is off the charts. It's unreal. You can feel it.
Yeah. And last thing I want to say about Purdy before we move on to Darnold, like, I don't even know how likable Purdy is. Like, I don't know that they even like him. They just respect him. How do you not respect him? Like, he told George Kittle essentially to shut up on television. And now he may tell the whole organization, like, look, guys, I'm going to do what's best for me. It's also what's best for the franchise. So stop pushing me. Like, we don't know. But if he told George Kittle to shut up, he might just, he's not being subversive, but he's standing up for himself. He's standing up for himself, which is very important. You got to do it.
I think that's what was part of what made the story of his situation last year so special, because he kind of earned respect immediately in what we thought was a very difficult situation with how down the team was after Garoppolo got hurt, how much they believed in Garoppolo and all of that. And we thought it was kind of an unwinnable locker room as long as Garoppolo was still there. And he was still kind of looming over Purdy's shoulder, right? Mm-hmm. The first couple Purdy starts, we were all under the impression that Garoppolo was going to return. And then we saw him play and we're like, no, you cannot reinsert Garoppolo, even if he is healthy, because this guy is playing better than him. And I think what was really impressive during that time and what seemed to blow his teammates away was Brock Purdy didn't come in trying to be their friends or all of that. He came in and he said, this is my chance for this opportunity, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure it happens. He didn't worry about the dynamics of his relationship with George Kittle. He just worried about how can George Kittle help me do my job. And I think inherently he got a respect immediately because the team could see that he's just all about winning and doing his job and doing what's best for the team. And, I don't know if he needs to necessarily be personable and you need to say, well, I love talking to this guy or like this guy as much as I respect how this guy does his job and how it helps me do mine. So clearly,
he's not real social. Like, I've seen him in the locker room. He's just in his locker doing his work. People respect him.
He was talking about last quarterback before last OTAs. Yeah.
Last quarterback. Sam Darnold. It was his first day in front of the media. It was his first day doing an interview in front of us in person. He went second. And to me, it's tough. It's a tough act to follow. He went after Brock. Brock's so mature and confident. Trey, so mature and confident. Then you got Sam. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to say anything snarky. He's just not like them. Like, he doesn't come across as super confident. He doesn't come across as like super mature. Not saying he's immature, but he comes across as a 25-year-old who's gone through some stuff. And like, his answers aren't as substantive as the other two. He uses a lot more filler words. He says a lot more. He just seems more nervous. And he's the oldest.
He doesn't answer questions as directly as them.
No, he doesn't answer questions as directly. And look, he means well. He's not combative. He's just, the other two are so impressive. And he's not as impressive. Ultimately, that doesn't mean anything about how he plays quarterback, but
he's boring.
Watching him on the field today, he just and you've seen it when you watch him on TV. Like, he doesn't exude confidence.
No, he's boring to the media too, right? Like, his answers, it's not like you mentioned. He's kind, he's nice, he's respectful. Mm-hmm. He's clearly a good guy. I'm not sitting here poo-pooing that. But when you listen to Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, they directly answer the questions and have something interesting to say. Whereas you can see Sam Darnold has clearly been in New York, been peppered by questions by the New York media, so he has a little bit of more of a Jimmy Garoppolo shield in front of him. Where I'll say this, but that's kind of my MO. And I think with him, really, his confidence, I mean, we can get into the nuances and, really, well, does Sam Darnold make this throw well? Does he do this well and all of that? And I think you might have a differing opinion based on how much belief people have in his talent versus how much equity people place in what they have seen from him in his career so far. So you'll have differing opinions there. I think the biggest thing that's going to decide which one of those two things are actually correct is how confident is he? How capable is he of going through everything he went through the last 5 years and still having the self-belief to say, I'm still a starting quarterback? And in fact, when we talk about growing pains for Trey Lance and for Brock Purdy coming off of an injury, Grant, I think there's going to be growing pains for Sam Darnold to reinvent himself too.
Yeah.
Growing pains
Thank you.
Alex Smith, when he reinvented himself, right? Like, that year was 17 touchdowns, 5 picks. It was barely 3,000 yards passing. Now, Alex Smith never turned the ball over. He played clean football. The Niners had Joe Hastings starting at receiver at one point in the season, so it was not the greatest situation, but it took him time to get confidence back pushing the ball down the field. There was a learning curve to get him to stop turning over the ball. Most recent example, another New York quarterback. I like him more than Sam Darnold, to be 100% honest. We used to talk about this.
Zach Wilson?
Daniel Jones. It took Daniel Jones last year. Daniel Jones had a good year, but Daniel Jones left so many plays on the field because it felt like they were just rebuilding his confidence of having him not turn over the ball. As much as I think Sam Darnold could have success, and I really believe that. I'm not the biggest Sam Darnold fan, but I think when you look at his skill set and talent and you look at the weapons, the coach, everything, he can be successful here. But when other quarterbacks, other than basically Geno, when they make this resurgence, and it's usually because they played the previous year, right? Geno sat for 10 years in between when he previously, I guess he ruined Eli's streak, but really it was a 10-year period before he started consistently. There takes a year for them also where they need their confidence to grow before they unleash it as well. So I think there's that question with him as well.
So here's why I feel like Sam's not that confident. And he played with the second team today. Like, you were the third pick in the draft. You started like almost 60 games in the NFL. Brandon Allen was with the third team. So he's playing with rookies, playing against third string players. Like, Brandon Allen looked like freaking Peyton Manning today. Okay. He's like, I'm 30. I've been in the league. I'm going against backup. I'm shredding them 7 for 7. Made it look great. I was like, I'm not overreacting. That was Brandon Allen. Like, that's what it should look like. He looked so confident. Like, Sam Darnold looked like Sam Darnold going against backups. And that to me is it's 7-on-7, man. You're going against no one who's starting in the NFL. And yeah, you got backups too, but like, Brandon Allen's killing it. You should be killing it. You're not reworking your mechanics. Like, you're just you. And it's like you still see like hesitation. Like, the first read's not there. We're like, it's like, I don't know. It was just a snapshot, but it was just the same impression I've always had from him.
So what you're saying is he didn't feel like a veteran quarterback to you?
No.
And Brandon Allen felt like a veteran.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And to me, it's like, so what is the point of having this 25-year-old rookie who's trying to remake it? It's like, I don't know. Like, bring in someone who's actually a vet like Brandon Allen, but better, or another rookie who doesn't have all this failure attached to him, for better or for worse.
Here's my question. Did you find it interesting that both Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold referenced Joe Burrow when talking about Brandon Allen? I've never heard that before. That was so like he's played with Tom Brady, he's played with Peyton Manning kind of moment. I didn't know we got there with Joe
Maybe
Burrow.
That's why everyone respected Jimmy so much, because of the Tom Brady. Maybe in meetings, Jimmy's just like, well, Tom Brady told me this one time, and that's what Brandon Allen's doing.
Maybe, but I thought that was really interesting because usually you hear them say, well, they do some good things with their offense in Cincinnati, or he played with Zach Taylor.
He personally developed Joe Burrow, and now he's going to develop the next Joe Burrow. Did they not say that, though?
They were like, he's been out there with Joe. He's been out there with
Joe. He must say it all. It's hilarious. We're going to get to your super chats in a minute. Last topic of the show. So we've laid out their plan at quarterback. They want to have a quarterback competition. Their hearts are in the right place. They got 3 precocious, well-meaning young quarterbacks with upside. But there's a flaw to this whole plan. We were talking about it. I'm going to lay it out real quick, and you can take it the rest of the way. It's a little bit like the Warriors' problem with the 2 timelines. I'm not going to get into basketball. But you're asking your quarterback on the Niners. It sounds so easy. Just be a cog in the machine. Just be a point guard. Just distribute the ball. It's not about you, man. You don't have to be special. You got special team around you, a special coach. Just do your job. It sounds so easy. But young quarterbacks want to be special. They want to show they can be special. That's the whole thing we were talking about with Brock Purdy. All of a sudden, he had a little success. All of a sudden, he starts freely. You want to show you can be more. You can be the next great quarterback. Why would you sell yourself short at 23 years old? So if you're asking a guy to be that cog in the machine, that's usually a 30-year-old. It's someone who knows they're not special. Someone who knows who they are. That's willing to play a role. Like, a role player quarterback, it's really hard to find that guy at 24, 23, 25. It's Brandon Allen or someone better. It's someone who knows who the hell they are and what they've been through. And that, to me, is the plan of the Niners quarterback, the flaw in their quarterback plan. They're asking young guys to do something that's really more built for someone 32 years old, someone my age.
Yeah, and this is a conversation that we had prior to all of this move up, right? That's when the Matthew Stafford conversation originated long before that. But part of the conversation there was veteran versus rookie. We felt like, well, veteran, you get a clean break from Garoppolo. The guy is already clearly better. All of that. It's a veteran team. Veteran comes in. He knows what to do. He knows
his role. He has experience in it. All of it.
I think what you're describing is further than the flaw in the quarterback plan. I think systematically, the issue with how the 49ers play and how much easier they make the game for the quarterback, and they really do. I think there's no doubt about that. Shanahan really does make the game easy for his quarterbacks, and is that they also require their quarterbacks to have a rudimentary skill set that requires experience, where they can get in and out of the right plays. Yeah. They can control the line of scrimmage. They can make the necessary throws.
They can lead a veteran team.
Right. It's all the basic stuff that they can do all of that. And I think Mike LaFleur actually ran into this issue with the Jets. Now, Zach Wilson is not a good player, but I think what happened with his development is that Zach Wilson is so talented physically, but he doesn't do any of the rudimentary stuff right, and they couldn't teach him to do the rudimentary stuff right. Whereas you have Mike White, who's nowhere near as gifted as Zach Wilson, but he runs the offense way better because he can do all the little basic stuff a quarterback has to do correctly. And so I think that's kind of their situation right now with the quarterback, even when you look at Trey Lance. And maybe we don't know what Shanahan is way superior to Mike LaFleur, so we don't know what his full plan is because we haven't seen Trey Lance play 4, 5, 6 games in a row. Unfortunately, he's gotten injured, so we haven't seen that. But I do think there is, in this system in general, as much as they do make life easier for quarterbacks, there's a reason they all really only succeed with veteran quarterbacks. And it's because those guys have played, they know how to play, and this system now makes life way easier for them.
Yeah,
it makes easier. It makes throws easier for them. It takes Matt Ryan, who was a top 10 quarterback, to an MVP level player. And so that brings me, this is why we talked about Matthew Stafford. And I think if everything doesn't work out for the 49ers, the quarterback with the potential out, the veteran quarterback we should keep our eye on is not Kirk Cousins, it's Dak Prescott. That will be a quarterback that's fringe top 10. You put him in a Shanahan offense. If that situation is created, he could be an MVP type player, in my opinion, in this offense with these weapons and all of that. So that's the name I would keep track of in case all of this doesn't work out, because I think that's the one. If Dallas hasn't re-signed him yet, that's the conversation, because we have talked so much about this rookie contract, and the rookie contract works because Purdy has a veteran skill set for a rookie, right? He does all the little things correctly. But if this season doesn't work out, and we are so far away from talking about that, if it doesn't work out, then we do get to the point where we start talking about other names, and the Niners can't necessarily be married to the Super Bowl skill set, because as long as Nick Bosa is, making $35 million, the Super Bowl window is right here, right now.
And remember, it sounds great to have a quarterback on a rookie deal. We've been talking about it for a long time, but the fact of the matter is you've built this team that's overdue for a Super Bowl. It's time. And there's been one 23-year-old quarterback in the history of football who's won a Super Bowl. One, Ben Roethlisberger. So you might have the second one, but if not, you might just,
And he didn't play well in that game. He was terrible.
Right. Exactly.
He scored the touchdown where his head crossed the goal line, but he didn't really score. Antoine Randall made the throw to Hines Ward. Willie Parker ran 75 yards for a touchdown.
Thank you. So they kind of shot the moon to do that in the first place. You guys might, if you don't, you might just want to get a veteran and just do it the tried and true way. Because I keep comparing this team to John Lynch's Tampa Bay team. They tried it with Dilfer. It didn't work. They tried it with Sean King. They went to an NFC Championship game with a rookie, kind of like this team. Didn't work. They eventually just brought in Brad Johnson, who's one of the most boring quarterbacks of all time, but he fit what they needed to do. He was 34 years old. He won.
Yeah, pretty much.
Maybe that's what this team needs to do eventually too. I don't know. Battle Beast 19. Oh, go ahead.
And I think that ultimately, again, we are so far away from that conversation, and we might not even get there. It could be Trey Lance. It could be Brock Purdy. Could even be Sam Darnold. But I do think systematically,
or none of the three.
Right. And then I think systematically we've seen with coaches from this system, whether it's Mike Shanahan, he had, success post John Elway in Denver with Jake Plummer, who had been around. He knew how to play, and he maximized him. Shanahan has maximized how many different veteran quarterbacks in his career where he's just changed the scope
Do it
of
again.
their careers.
Do it again.
Talent, right?
You can't develop a young guy. It's hard. Do your magic on a vet, dude. Do that. Be that guy. It's nothing because you can get vets for cheap too, or not. Whatever. Like you can backload the contract, make it work. Hey, if the Eagles can go to the Super Bowl paying freaking Carson Wentz and not be on their team, you can figure it out.
Rams,
you know what I'm saying?
That's back to back.
Exactly. You can figure it out. Yeah. Battle Beast 19 says only God knows. Sounds like Kyle already wants 5. I don't know. I don't think he cares. Lamonte 757 says, honestly, Sam is the best QB3 any team could have. Who will Kyle play versus Raiders and Jimmy in joint practices? Also, what's up with kickers? Pause. Yeah, no one wants to talk about that kicker competition, but both Zane and Jake Moody missed the 48-yarder wide left. To be fair.
Oh, really? I saw Lombardi only posted that Zane missed.
How can you trust a spreadsheet when he doesn't get all that? How can you trust a spreadsheet?
I thought he did. I'm sorry.
Jack Hammer has my Jack. I was watching with Jack. He'll tell you he missed it. Connor Lambert says late to the show. So happy to see Vish back. Does this mean weekly installments again?
We'll see.
We'll see. I think we're gonna keep you on your toes. Now I think we're gonna make these like special, just because the what's the word? I just think it'd be kind of cool to do it when you least expect it. But I think probably during the football season, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Steven says you're wrong, Grant.
How much do you like it? We'll find out when we see the views, the like
That's
buttons,
true.
all of that. So
yeah, like it up.
This is your opportunity.
Allen will be the last quarterback. He was kicking ass today. Monza Toure says, is Brock proven with that injury in the first half of the season? Kyle knows he starts slow, and it's intentional. Purdy will not start. It makes no sense. I hate the idea that it's intentional to start slow. Like, get the number 1 seed. Get the bye week. But
By the way, Jake Moody nailed all of his field goal attempts at practice today. Zane Gonzalez was good on all of his tries until the 49ers backed the ball up to a 50-yarder, and he narrowly
It was 48. Get it right. It was 48 from the left hat. Ask Jack. Jack Hammer knows what he's doing. Jack Hammer needs to do the official spreadsheet from now on. Jay Mills said, hold on. Wentz will be QB1 by week 14 because McKivitz. Wentz, his official beta music. Oh, wow. That's
DNA music. Why?
Dark.
Why?
Jay Mills says Lance Boy Toys 24/7 Blast Rock. Flav is right. Boy Toys. That's just rude. Cheeky says be scrumdiddlyumptious to see Grant, Vish, and Jesse. Oh, I think we could do that.
Yeah.
Devin Smith says, what if Brock comes back and looks like trash? What do you think the Niners will do? How long is the leash? It wouldn't be good. I don't think they'll play him if he's looking like trash. If he's looking good in practice, they'll put him back out there. What if questions are hard? Gregory says, glad to see you and Vish doing a show again. Second favorite show to you and your pops. Well, thank you very much.
Second, look at that.
Niner you love to hate says, little shade toward Larry Freddy Krueger, LOL. No shade. No shade.
What
love
does that
Larry.
mean?
I don't know. Manny Fresh says Niners need a franchise quarterback. Brock, Trey, Sam, not it. Impossible. Maybe. Roberto Davis says, Grant, what do you think of Trey's efforts at changing his delivery? Is there an improvement? What did you see with regard to his past habits reemerging? I broke it down. I think he is fixing his front leg lock issue. There's more to it than that. I'm going to have locked in quarterback.
Quarterback expert.
Yeah, I'm locked in quarterback, a quarterback expert. His name is something Carter Samuels. He was the quarterback at Vanderbilt under James Franklin, who is now the quarterback at Penn State. He's coming on my show tomorrow, channel tomorrow at 1. So he's going to explain a lot. Stephen Pryor says, man, I'm waiting for the video of Glock Purdy going full Scarface on a Bible or something is coming. Jeez. Lance had to do the club video. Jimmy had Kiara Mia. I don't think Purdy's that kind of guy. Dustin McCormick says, I feel that whatever quarterback starts the season is at a disadvantage with the Niners' history of slow starts. Would Trey have looked good during the last third of the season? I think he would have. But
I don't know if it's as much their history with slow starts. I think why they start slow is because they don't get enough repetitions on offense through the course of the offseason.
Right.
And their offense is so intricate and so detailed that when they mess up the little details, right, yes, everything is not working out. And I think that's where whichever quarterback has to play, Pittsburgh and that defense, like you mentioned, all the crazy blitzes, all the crazy fronts, the way they trouble quarterbacks early, and TJ Watt's going to be going up against Colton McKivitz week 1. Tough place to play. I think it's going to be a struggle for anybody just because of the way offensive football is for the Niners. So, yeah.
Dave, you missed the whole show, but we love you. JJ Harrison says, if Trey plays good, do you believe the team will back him over Purdy? If he wins.
Absolutely.
If he wins. Dave Barclay says, what up, Vish? How'd college go?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Go back one day.
Dak and my Soldier Boy meme voice. Hey, man, I really didn't like Dak last year in the playoffs, but, I mean, it was Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy. Like, you put Dak on this team? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with it. Scott, Grant, take your wife out. Get Vish a good meal while in college. He's out of college, baby. Have a great night, guys. Thank you very much, Scott. That's the show. This was a special one. Vish, this was a lot of fun, man. Thank you.
You're getting more donations, man.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay, Thomas, can we see anything at all with defense at OTAs? I mean, it's 7-on-7. Isaiah Oliver had a pass breakup. Darrell Luter Jr. did too. It's not easy to do. No pass rush. That's just them. Man to man.
Let me ask you this on defense. Yeah. Whose body looked like they'd changed the most?
Drake Jackson looked big. Yoked. Drake Jackson, no question about it. And on offense, Burford.
Did you see Drake Jackson move around at all?
A little bit, but
did he look like he was moving at it with the new weight?
Yes. He looked leaner and stronger. Like he looked great. But Austin is sorry. So hold on. Austin Carter Samuels is coming on the show. I think so. He has a brother too, who I think played at Washington, and I forget which one it is because he goes by. It's Austin. Yeah, Austin Carter Samuels coming on the show tomorrow at 1:00. Yeah, he's dope. He's a really good follow on Twitter. Locked in quarterback. Yeah, he's really good.
Really good. Sure. I agree.
I went to high school with him. Total stud back in the day.
Oh, cool. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. But I've been following his commentary for sure.
He's great. He's really into like new age throwing mechanics and like basically how Aaron Rodgers throws the ball. Right. It's very interesting. Right. He'll break it down tomorrow. Dave Barclay says, guess I have to watch the whole show over again. Yeah, dog. Dave says, love you guys for what you do. Thank you too.
Thank you.
All right. I got dinner waiting for me, Vish. What you got going on the rest of the night? It's almost 11 by you.
Dude, I gotta go make dinner. I don't get dinner just waiting for me after the show.
Go get married. I highly recommend it.
Or move home. Or move back.
Or move home. There's that. All right, Vish. I'll talk to you soon. Everyone else, I'll be back tomorrow, bright and early with Rob. It's gonna be like a marathon of streaming tomorrow. So I'll see you at 9 in the morning. Peace.
All right.